Welcome to CSGS. Stands for Common Sense Gat Stuff, Common Sense Gun Stuff. Can't actually name it that because apparently YouTube isn't a big fan of that kind of thing. Shocker. It's an offshoot of ATA, Appalachian Tactical Academy. We used to have a channel, and restarting that as well. So I wanted to review this Groove Life, whatever they call it, belt. So it's frequently marketed as, quote, the last concealed carry belt you'll ever need. I ordered it. I got tons of ads for that. I used to make belts, leather belts. I've been wearing the same one for 8 years at this point, and it's starting to stretch a little. It's not going to break or anything, but just one of those things where it was really nice, and I put it through a lot of duress, so could use a different one. Saw this, I wear one of their rings. I was like, all right, whatever, I'll try it. So I ordered it, and short answer is no. So the whole purpose of this channel is I get fed up of, you ever forget to do just the dumbest thing? Like, how do I get this bolt back into this AK receiver? How do I disassemble a Glock, for argument's sake? And you look up, you're like, man, I'm an idiot, I can't remember this. You try to look it up, and there's tons of videos, but they're all like 12 minutes long, and the 15 seconds you need is buried somewhere in the middle. So this video will be the one exception to this rule. The rest of the channel, I plan on being like, no nonsense introductions like, hey, my name's so-and-so, everything's unloaded and show clear. So I don't, first of all, why do you care? It's not going to come through your computer. It's not going to come through your phone. So anyway, that's the whole point of this channel to begin with. But I felt like this is probably something a lot of people ask themselves, because, you know, when I got the ad, which said, that dude's kind of annoying to me, if I'm being honest, but he was like stretching it out, and it looks kind of cool. It looks pretty aesthetic, and I'm not gonna lie. In terms of just a belt, it's perfectly fine. It's kind of so far as I'm aware, they have this proprietary belt buckle, which it latches. It's interesting. It latches kind of cool. Me, someone that's, you know, getting old and fat, it stretching out was nice for me, because that's one of the problems with my leather belt is, you know, if I have it on a certain hole, then when I'm carrying, which is every day, it'll start to stretch. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. I was like, you know what, that'd be a little kind of nice if it just would hold my pants up and then also carry the weight of my blaster. So I'm going to give the short answer. I'm doing some shooting tests. I got steel set up so you can know when I miss. But the short version of short answer to, is this the best concealed carry belt or the last one you'll need, is no. Not even remotely. Not if you seriously carry every day. Not if you seriously train. There are a multitude of problems with it. Chiefly, it's just too thin. It's paper thin. It has, I mean, a fair amount of resistance, but not enough to where if you've got to run that slide on that belt, it just folds over. It just totally collapses. It's not very thick. It doesn't hold a tremendous amount of weight, which for concealed carry purposes, you know, is that a big deal? Not really. But the main issue with the design, with how thin it is if you have any kind of, and I'm testing different holsters, different types. So like, this is a holster. I started making holsters a decade ago at this point. This is very similar to kind of your standard taco style. It just happens to be one I made. So like, We the People has blown up the last few years. Same kind of foamy clips they use. Exactly the same setup. So what happens whenever I'm wearing that belt? If you watch the entirety of this, you'll see, but whenever you go to draw in a real life situation, you want the holster to come with it? No. And that's what happens. More often than not, the entire holster is coming out when you go to draw. So I would say the too long didn't read version is, the question you need to ask yourself is, do you trust your life to something like this? And it sounds silly, it sounds cliche, but it's true. It's the reality. Gear matters. And if you're wearing this every day, and we all know how important milliseconds are when you're in a gunfight, when you're going to draw it. So if this hinders you for any amount of time, is it safe, frankly? Is it a good idea? Is it the best option? The answer is no. And as like just a belt, it's perfectly fine. It's pretty aesthetic. I like it. If it worked, I would wear it. I honestly do like it a lot, but it's just the web material, when you see it, it's one of those things like where you ever see, man, maybe I can get away with buying an Alibaba belt instead of, you know, an HSGI belt, and then you order it and it's just trash. Not saying it's trash, but for conceal carry purposes, it's trash. I wouldn't use it. So it's just too thin to hold on to these clips. It doesn't, the stretching is kind of a con, because when it's something like my leather belt, if it's in frame, whenever it's stressed out like this, that added tension helps keep the belt attached to this clip. So when I go to draw, that holster's not coming out with it. You don't have that with this due to the elasticity. So 4 out of 10, would not recommend. Let's get to shooting stuff. All right, shooting test numero uno. Just my standard 19 that I carry every day. Same holster I just showed. It's got a super sweet stipple job that I did myself. Anybody wants it? So yeah, hit me up. Let's go. Okay, so a big thing I forgot is when I was doing the little intro, one of the main problems with this, other than like everything I talked about, part of where the issues come in is when you're just walking around. So I wore this for a couple days and just walking around like normal, and the big problem I had was every time, like every couple minutes, if even that long, it's not sturdy enough to hold this clip in place whenever you're moving. So like if you take this belt, if you have this belt and you go to the range, and every time you're resetting it, you're like, okay, now I'm ready, it's going to work fine. But if you walk around at all, if you wear this walking into the range, which I guess indoor ranges can't, but whatever, if you wear this walking in and you don't adjust it at all, and then after walking around, what happens is, you can even see it right now, you probably can't see it on the camera, but it's just enough, it's ridden just above the bottom line of this belt, so it's no longer attached. So if you're realistically like not being able, first of all, that's kind of sketchy for you to constantly be moving at weather, regardless of where you carry. But if you're walking around, running, whatever, and then you go to draw, it's coming out with it. Next up is this sidecar. Honestly, I don't even remember who made it, but you can see it's a different kind of clip. I think this will probably perform pretty well because it has that hard kind of stop there. I think this will hold just fine. This is for an M&P 2.0. So we'll test this, call it a day. All right, so this is but one man's opinion. As stated previously, I wouldn't carry this. I wouldn't use it as a belt to carry with every day. Now, everybody's body's different. You might have one, it might work fine. I'm not saying it won't work, but I think objectively there are some better options, some better alternatives. Some things performed well. Like I said before, if you're adjusting it every time, it actually performs fine. But like my experience carrying it for the several days that I did, and then even out here with minor movements, it's just not reliable. It's not 100%. Is anything 100%? No, but I've never had that happen in my leather belt, and I've considered doing a review of the BCM belt, which I wore for a while and used as like an instructor belt for a while. Never had it happen with that. I think there's some cons to that too, though. I don't wear that every day. But so it depends on your body. I guess it depends on the style of holster you carry. There are a lot of variables, but overall for me, I wouldn't recommend it. All right, so my apologies. I said this was a BCM belt. It's a Bravo concealment belt. It's my bad. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it in here because I don't think I'm good at this making videos thing. It's real windy up here. And so I don't know if I'm gonna dedicate, if enough people like this, then maybe I'll do it, but I'll give you the short version. So, all right, we've got the Groove Life belt, the Bravo concealment, I can't remember what they call it, and then my just kind of standard leather belt. So, as you can see, the Bravo, just from the top view, is twice as thick as this Groove Life. It's double webbed. I assume it's glued together. I don't really know how it's made, but glued together, stitched together. Problems with this, it's real thick, so it's 1 3/4 inches. Hell, it might even be 2 inches, which most standard out of the box clips you get on a holster that are this style, I'd say at most are 1 3/4 inches. Obviously you can order them bigger, but on average they're 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 inches. So this for conceal carry was just a little too wide for me. It wasn't really, I wouldn't say the belt itself is uncomfortable, but the buckle was uncomfortable. It's just so freaking wide. And where I appendix carry, this was constantly digging into me. It's not, I mean, you know, you'll survive with it, but it just wasn't the most comfortable for me. The other downside, like this is a really rough style buckle. So, I mean, Groove Life definitely wins on the buckle design, but within a week, this started fraying where I was running it in to their buckle, and I emailed them about it. They said they were going to send me a new one and then give me a shipping label to send the old one back. That never happened, but it is what it is. It still works fine. It's just kind of annoying. Like you can see how torn up it is, and I didn't even wear this that long. I wore it for one season. I probably wore it for like 10 classes, and then wore it around town a handful of times. So this leather belt, as you can see, is even thicker than the Bravo concealment. So it's more than twice as thick as the Groove Life. For my money, I mean, you can get a decent leather belt for, I don't know, nowadays, well under 50 bucks. Might not be real leather, but it'll do the job. The Groove Life was 50 bucks. Bravo concealment, I can't remember. I want to say it was almost like 80 bucks. So to recap, not a terrible belt as a belt, not an ideal belt, definitely not the last conceal carry belt you'll ever need. There are cheaper things that accomplish the same task. So for my money, just use what works for you. Honestly, 50 bucks I don't think is a terrible price point. I talked to some people and they're like, yeah, man, it was too expensive. It was $50, which I didn't think was a terrible price. But for my money, I wouldn't use it. It's fucking stupid.